Toxic Lady Story. Toxic Breath. The haunting case of Gloria Ramirez. The rain over Riverside, California, felt oddly metallic the night Gloria Ramirez was rushed to the county hospital. People later swore they could taste copper on their tongues, a prelude none of them recognized. Ambulances sliced through the slick streets, red strobes pulsing like a warning heartbeat against dark storefront windows. Inside the lead rig, Gloria, 31 years old, mother of two, lay trembling, her breaths uneven, skin shimmering with an oily sheen that caught every flash of passing headlights. Paramedics were seasoned to suffering, yet something about her scent, sharp, chemical, nearly electric, made them swallow hard behind their masks. One medic whispered that her sweat glowed faintly violet under the rig's instrument lights. His partner told him to focus on vitals, but even she noticed the strange heat radiating from Gloria's chest, as though a furnace had been stoked beneath her ribs. When the double doors to the emergency room banged open, staff braced for another late-shift crisis. None expected the invisible cloud that rolled in around the gurney. It carried an odor like burned almonds and gasoline, sweet at first, then suffocating. Nurses coughed. A registrar clutched her throat, eyes watering. An orderly stumbled, nausea ripping through his gut. Somewhere down the corridor, an automatic door refused to close, as if the building itself wanted distance. Moments later, as Gloria's pulse fluttered under plastic leads, a lurking dread settled in, a knowledge no textbook had prepared them for. What effused from her body was not merely disease or poison. It was an event, a phenomenon that would etch itself into medical lore as the Toxic Lady. Chapter 1. Code Blue. Gloria's stretcher slid beneath unforgiving fluorescent lights, where the scent thickened, coiling into every vent. Dr. Adam Reyes, freshly promoted, secretly exhausted, took charge. He noted tachycardia, low oxygen saturation, and a peculiar gloss on her exposed skin, as if she'd been lacquered. He asked the respiratory therapist to prep intubation equipment and ordered blood work, unaware that opening a single vial would tip the night into nightmare. Nurse Sally Kramer leaned close to start an IV. She'd weathered industrial accidents, gang gunshots, and meth lab burns. She thought nothing could shock her. But as her gloved fingers found Gloria's vein, a chill spidered up her arm. The patient's blood, dark and thick, carried whirlpools of brown crystals that refracted light like tiny shards of amber. Sally's vision blurred. A metallic clang rang in her ears. She tightened her grip on the syringe, then gagged. Across the bed, resident Mike Chang caught the whiff of something rotten and citrus sharp. His knees buckled. He grasped the railing, fighting dizziness. An alarm screamed as Gloria's heart spiked to a dangerous rhythm. Dr. Reyes barked for suction. Sally opened the syringe to transfer blood into a collection tube. The moment the stopper popped, a grayish vapor spiraled out, iridescent under the lamp. It smelled of ammonia and something far older, like tomb air. Sally's eyes rolled back. She slumped to the floor. "Code Blue!" Reyes shouted, but his voice fractured. The cloud hit him next. He staggered, lungs searing, throat closing as if clasped by icy hands. Chang reached for the crash cart, yet felt gravity skew sideways. The polished linoleum rose like a wall. He collapsed beside Sally, both convulsing in silent sync. Across the ward, respiratory therapist Dana Latimer sprinted toward the chaos. She had trained for mass casualty triage, but nothing prepared her for colleagues twitching on the ground, foaming at their lips. She ripped a fresh mask from the supply cabinet, yanked on goggles, and stepped into the room. The air stung her eyes, but she held steady, focusing on Gloria, still conscious, eyes wide, pleading without words. Dana heard a low hum, unsure if it came from machines or from within the patient herself. Gloria's abdomen ballooned suddenly, a grotesque distension that pressed against her gown. Monitors shrieked irregular patterns. Dana reached out, to comfort, to diagnose, she wasn't sure, and felt heat whirling off Gloria's skin like a kiln. Gritting her teeth, she inserted a breathing tube. Vapor seeped from the airway like smoke from cracked earth. Dana's gloved hands tingled, then burned. Tiny blisters rose under the latex, bursting with a sickening hiss. Outside the bay, chaos spread. Security dragged limp bodies into fresh air, stacking victims along corridor walls. Overhead, the intercom sputtered. Hazmat protocol. Evacuate Zone 3. Flickering lights cast strobing shadows of gurneys and IV poles, turning the hallway into a jerking, silent film of panic. Someone vomited near the nurse's station, the acidic stench mingled with the chemical fog. Dinah refused to abandon Gloria. She glimpsed the patient's eyes, amber flecks swirling in dilated pupils, and saw recognition, as though Gloria understood the havoc her body unleashed. With trembling hands, Dana pressed her own name tag into Gloria's palm, an absurd gesture of solidarity. The woman tried to speak. Instead, a thick tear of tar-black fluid slid from her lip, sizzling against the bed rail. That was when the room lights exploded, bulbs bursting in a chain reaction overhead, showering glass that melted before hitting the floor. Emergency backups clunked on, weaker, yellow, sinister. A howl rose from every vent, a cavernous wail that turned bowels to water. Somewhere, an oxygen tank ruptured, metal groaning like a tormented beast. Dana felt her consciousness slip, senses drowning in sulfur and iron. As her knees gave way, she saw Dr. Reyes, vomit streaking his coat, crawl to the doorway, hitting the code alarm again and again with a blood-slick palm. Red strobes answered, bathing everything in hellish light. Then, the world went dark. Chapter 2. Quarantine Crisis. Sirens howl through Riverside County Medical Center as hazmat crews breach the lobby, orange suits crackling beneath the fluorescent hum. Yellow plastic sheeting unspools, sealing off hallways with the snap of duct tape. Onlookers, patients on gurneys, night janitors clutching mops, watch wide-eyed while nurses stagger past clutching trash bags of personal items, coughing into their elbows. Outside, rain smears the ambulance bay in greasy ribbons. Orange cones divert traffic. News vans jostle for curb space. Camera lights blinking like anxious fireflies. Reporters shout questions no one answers. Their lenses fog when the bay doors hiss open, releasing a gust that smells of rubbing alcohol and something rancid, like old batteries left in the sun. Inside the cordon, Dr. Adam Reyes sits slumped against a wall, IV dripping clear saline into his vein. His eyes flutter at half-mast. Every shallow breath feels barbed. He tries to picture his two daughters asleep at home, but the memory blurs, washed out by the chemical haze that still stings his sinuses. A hazmat tech kneels, scans him with a handheld meter. Numbers spike into the red Geiger counter clatter echoing through the corridor. The tech curses under his respirator and tags Reyes's wristband, level 3 contaminant, unknown. Down the hall in an isolation bay, Nurse Sally Kramer lies unconscious beneath silver survival blankets. Her skin blisters in fractal patterns, as though frostbite and sunburn battled over the same territory. An anesthesiologist whispers that he's never seen lesions bloom so fast, tiny petals of skin curling outward, leaking fluorescent serum that clings to latex gloves in sticky threads. Only Dana Latimer remains semi-lucid, propped on a supply cart. Her palms are a roadmap of burst vesicles, yet her focus stays fixed on Gloria. Through a thick plexiglass window, Dana watches the toxic lady's monitor. Heart rate easing now, blood pressure climbing toward normal. Gloria's face has lost its lavender pallor, replaced by a weird porcelain calm. but vapor still halos her body, swirling in shapes that resemble skeletal wings, folding and unfolding in slow motion. A deputy from the sheriff's office arrives, radio crackling. He asks the on-scene commander if terrorism is suspected. The commander, Captain Linda Vega, Riverside Fire, doesn't answer. Her eyes track a droplet of clear fluid sliding down her visor. The droplet lands on the tile and sizzles, leaving a pit no bigger than a sewing needle. She finally mutters, "Quarantine the whole ER. Nobody leaves. Nobody." The deputy blanches. "We've got 20 civilians inside those waiting rooms." "Then set up cots," Vega snaps. "This building is a vessel until I say different." In the command tent pitched on the lawn, environmental toxicologist Dr. Henry Ochoa pores over scrawled timelines. 5 minutes of exposure felled seasoned medical staff. 6 left one janitor catatonic, pupils blown wide as eclipse shadows. Ochoa flips through chemical quick reference cards, mustard gas, arsine, organophosphates, but nothing perfectly fits the symptom cluster. Rapid dermal blistering, neurogenic collapse, metallic odor, violet skin sheen, blood granules the color of pitch. He turns to the deputy coroner, Dr. Evelyn Hawkes. "If this is a weaponized agent, it's like nothing in any NATO registry." Hawkes, gaunt behind fogged glasses, says, "Unless we're looking in the wrong century. Alchemy could brew things modern labs ignore." Ochoa snorts, but Hawkes's expression doesn't flicker. She gestures toward Gloria's chart on the corkboard. Paramedic notes from the pickup site. Cervical cancer patient undergoing chemo at home, using herbal oils per family. Hawkes circles the words dimethyl sulfoxide, DMSO, scribbled in margin, a solvent some alternative medicine forums tout for pain relief. DMSO is harmless, Ochoa objects. "Until it metabolizes," Hawkes replies, finger tapping twice. "Under certain conditions it can transmute into dimethyl sulfate, a lethal gas. We need her pharmacy logs. We need fridge samples from her house." "Time," Ochoa says, glancing toward the glowing hospital. "We might not have it." Back on the ward, lights flicker as generators strain under sealed door airflow systems. Gloria's breathing steadies, her eyelids twitching like dreamers trapped between worlds. Dana presses her radio to the plexiglass. "Gloria," she whispers, unsure the woman can hear through double panes and swirling mist. "If you understand me, squeeze the rail." Gloria's fingers flutter, hover, then clamp down. Once, twice. Dana's pulse surges. "What hurts?" Dana mouths, pointing at her own chest, head, stomach. Gloria's gaze drifts to the ceiling, then back to Dana. Slowly she raises her right hand, touches her sternum, then spreads her palm as though releasing something unseen. A puff of vapor escapes her lips, coalesces into a tiny spiral that floats upward and vanishes against the fluorescent fixture. Dana feels tears burn the corners of her eyes. Not from gas this time. Grief. Whatever miracle or curse flows through Gloria is killing decent people by inches. Yet Gloria remains prisoner inside her own flesh, a beacon of irreversible dread. A klaxon blares overhead. "Evacuate! Level 4 contamination, evacuate!" Captain Vega curses. Someone has overridden her lockdown. She sprints toward the communications hub, boots skidding on slick vinyl. At the corner she slams into 2 state hazmat specialists lugging silver Pelican cases. They claim Sacramento ordered a full extraction, patient and samples, effective immediately. Vega jabs a finger at their orders, demands authorization codes. The taller tech lifts his visor just enough to show hollow eyes rimmed in broken capillaries. "No time," he rasps. "Facility vents share with maternity on 3. Your quarantine already failed." Vega's stomach knots. She pictures newborns under warming lamps, mothers half dreaming of names and lullabies. "If vapors bleed upstairs, move," she barks. "We'll escort." 3rd floor maternity unit. Nurse Alejandra Ruiz checks an incubator's oxygen level when a faint almond gasoline tang slips under the door. She pauses, sniffing, then monitors beep chaotically, infant heart rate spiking. A father in the corner chair stands, swaying. He lifts his newborn, then staggers, dropping to one knee. The baby wails, lungs seizing in tiny gasps. Alejandra lunges to press emergency call, but her hand trembles. The button swims out of focus. Colors run like watercolor on rain-soaked paper. She mouths a prayer in Spanish before collapsing beside the isolette. Red lights flash. Distant sirens merge into one endless scream. Back downstairs, the extraction team storms isolation bay. Plexiglass doors hiss apart. Instantly, gray vapor claws at their suits, etching spiderweb fissures across plastic visors. A tech shouts, voice muffled. They wheel a negative pressure pod toward Gloria's bed, sleek, coffin-like, fitted with portholes and internal HEPA scrubbers. Dana interposes herself. She'll suffocate in there. She'll kill everyone out here. The tech growls, shoving past. Gloria's eyes lock on Dana, fear and resignation braided tight. The techs grasp her limbs, but Gloria convulses, muscles jerking as though jerked by puppet strings. A sound like cracking ice echoes inside her chest. Her back arches, mouth yawning wide. From her throat gushes a plume of violet mist, so dense it churns like spilled paint underwater. The lead tech tries to seal the pod, but the latch jams. Corrosion blooms where vapor touches stainless steel. One tech flails, mask melting across his cheeks. He howls, tearing at straps until they snap. Skin sloughs in ribbons, revealing raw crimson beneath. He stumbles into the wall, leaving a steaming smear. Dana seizes the pod hatch, smashing at the hinge with a portable monitor until metal bends. She wrests it open, shoves Gloria inside, slams the lid. Seals snap shut a fraction before the next exhalation. The vapor rebounds against plexi walls, swirling like captive lightning. Gloria's eyes flutter behind fogged visor glass. A hush spreads, monitors steady. The contaminated air dissipates by degrees, sucked into ceiling vents feeding industrial scrubbers. Dana staggers back, knees buckling. Captain Vega radios upstairs. Maternity evacuation in progress, unknown casualties. The extraction team's surviving tech, visor pocked with acid spots, helps Dana to her feet. "You just saved the building," he says. Dana looks at Gloria's sealed pod. Or bottled its doom. Outside, the rain turns to hail, stones pinging ambulance roofs like knuckles on caskets. In the distance, a transformer blows, plunging half the city into darkness. Swaths of streetlights wink out, leaving Riverside a patchwork of shadows and flaring police beacons. And for one breathless moment, everything feels impossibly still, before the next wave of terror rolls in. Chapter 3. Specimen 0. Wind batters the canvas command tent, rattling metal poles as Captain Vega briefs the incoming CDC liaison. Dr. Lila Monroe, epidemiologist and veteran of Ebola zones, studies half-cleared vitals on a tablet. Blood pH off the chart, spontaneous crystallization in plasma, vapor point below human core temperature. She frowns. Biology doesn't allow this. Tell that to the 17 people in ICU, Vega mutters, voice hoarse. Monroe pockets the tablet and turns to the corridor webcam feed. Inside, Gloria Ramirez floats in the negative pressure pod like a chrysalis in amber. Sensors taped to the plastic register microbursts of heat with every breath, pulse waves that shimmer across the pod walls, warping the view of her face. Even contained, she radiates the same ghost-colored mist, now trapped and churning against the filters. Monroe asks for on-scene sample authority. Vega nods, signing the digital waiver with shaking fingers. A hazmat courier produces a chilled case. Inside, the single syringe nurse Sally Kramer filled before collapsing. The blood glitters under field lamps, tiny geometric facets turning like kaleidoscope shards. Monroe snaps the case shut. Get me a BSL-4 lab within driving distance. Closest is UCLA. Vega checks her watch. 2 hours if we clear every road. Then move mountains. 2 floors above, the maternity wing has been converted into triage overflow. Nurses pace between rows of cots, eyes bloodshot from inadequate respirators. Dana Latimer, palms bandaged, leans over Dr. Adam Reyes, who shivers beneath a silver blanket. His voice is papery. How many sick? 32 symptomatic, Dana whispers. 7 critical. Reyes squeezes her wrist. It ends with her. Dana knows he means Gloria, sealed and silent downstairs, but another thought coils in her mind. What if it doesn't end? What if Gloria is just the first flare of something waiting inside any body, sparked by some hidden catalyst? Footsteps interrupt. Doctor. Henry Ochoa arrives with Deputy Coroner Hawks, both wearing hastily sewn lead-lined aprons. Hawks carries a printout, gas chromatography data from the blood sample run on a portable analyzer. She spreads the sheet across a rolling table. Spikes litter the graph like jagged mountain teeth. DMSO derivative confirmed, she says, but partnered with an unknown halogenated compound. Molecular weight is off the scale for any environmental contaminant. Ochoa adds, it's forming polymer chains midair, self-assembling, reacting with moisture to release sulfates and hydrochloric acid. One puff is like breathing battery acid. Dana stares at the spikes. Why isn't Gloria dead? Her cells are exporting the toxin, Hawks answers, like sweat. She's the reactor, not the victim. Reyes forces himself upright, pain lancing his ribs, then shut the reactor down. Silence spreads. Killing a patient feels obscene, yet the numbers on Hawks' chart whisper inevitability. Dana's stomach knots. She remembers Gloria's trembling hand squeezing the rail, alive, terrified, pleading. No, Dana says, find the catalyst, reverse it. Ochoa rubs his temples. We'd need tissue biopsies, intracellular pH readings, mitochondrial, then let's take them. Dana snaps. Hawks gestures at Reyes's IV pole. We poke her again. We risk aerosolizing more agent. One puncture could wipe out the county. Reyes exhales. We need remote extraction. Robotics. That gear is hours away, Vega says from the doorway, eavesdropping. UCLA is prepping an armored convoy, but we have to keep everyone alive until dawn. Outside, thunderheads stack like bruised titans over the city. Transformer failures chain react, plunging Riverside streets into blackout. Only the hospital glows, an island of sodium lights and strobes, hemmed by squad cars and National Guard Humvees. Families huddle under umbrellas at barricades, begging news. Police repeat the same refrain. Chemical leak, stay back, evacuation pending. Inside radiology, a junior tech named Marcus pulls overtime, drafted to analyze CT scans of Gloria transmitted straight from the negative pressure pod. The images render ghostly cross-sections. Lungs coated in vitrified film, liver webbed with hexagonal crystals, heart chambers ringed by faint halos of luminescence. Marcus gulps. He toggles to spectral imaging. Each organ pulses with radial spokes of light, as though circuits have replaced arteries. A soft ping signals an anomaly. Deep in the sternum, adjacent to bone marrow, a small object flashes brighter than surrounding tissue. Dimensions, 6 millimeters by 4. Shape, irregular, faceted. Marcus zooms. The pixel resolution blurs, but the core seems metallic, maybe mineral lodged like a seed. He radios Dr. Monroe. Ma'am, there's something inside her chest. Artifact? Solid, foreign, might be the source. Monroe orders a 3D reconstruction. When the hologram finally coalesces in the darkened scan room, staff gather, breath held behind masks. The object resembles a black diamond, edges serrated in fractal symmetry. Around it, soft tissue ripples, constant motion like water circling a drain. Jesus, someone mutters. Monroe points at the swirling tissue. It's drawing electrolytes, catalyzing conversion. That stone turns blood into poison gas. Ochoa whispers, "A surgically implanted crystal?" Hawks answers, "Or a metastasized tumor calcified around some chemo byproduct. Either way, if we pull it, reaction stops." Reyes coughs hard, spits copper-tinged saliva into a tray. "So cut it out." Dana's eyes flick to the wall clock. 2:47 a.m. Storm sirens wail outside. The county has issued a severe weather alert. Flash floods inbound. Convoy roads will wash out. Gloria Ramirez isn't leaving this building. "Prep an OR," Dana says. Monroe lowers her visor. "That's suicide." Dana lifts her bandaged palms. "I'm already halfway gone. I'll scrub. Remote tools only, negative pressure field inside the OR. You guide me." Reyes starts to protest, but ends in a wheeze. Ochoa, reluctant, nods. Hawks shakes her head, then hands Dana an ampule of atropine and an EpiPen. "If you feel your throat close, jab the pen. If your heart stutters, crush the atropine under your tongue." Understood. Operating Theater C becomes a bunker. Walls tarped in triple-thick plastic, ceiling vents sheathed with HEPA tubes snaking to rooftop exhaust fans that roar like jet engines. 2 robotic arms, loaners from a surgical training suite, are wheeled in, their software jury-rigged for manual joystick control. Dana stands between them in a reinforced hazmat suit, visor T-shaded, oxygen tank hissing at her back. Electrostatic seals cling to every seam. Gloria's pod is maneuvered under arc lights. Surgeons outside the barrier watch via camera feeds, murmuring prayers no handbook taught them. Monroe's voice crackles through Dana's earpiece. "Vitals steady. Begin pod depressurization." Dana locks her gloves into the arm ports of the pod, feeling the plastic flex. With slow precision, she retracts the pod lid a fraction, enough to slide in the robotic endoscope. A gasp escapes. Vapor billows, but the surrounding suction chimneys it into silver ducts. Robotic pincers hover over Gloria's sternum. In the monitor, her skin gleams opalescent, pores sweat milky droplets that sizzle on contact with air. Dana guides a scalpel-tip laser, tracing a silent line between ribs. The beam severs flesh. Instead of blood, a syrupy amber ooze seeps out, instantly crystallizing into glassy scales. "Proceed," Monroe urges, voice taut. Dana inserts a biopsy funnel, edges shimmering as the ooze climbs like living molasses. She fights the suction throttle, clearing the view. The black crystal nestles beneath translucent cartilage, pulsing faintly. Robotic grips grope for purchase on its jagged contours. The crystal resists, anchored by fibrous strands that writhe when touched. Suddenly, Gloria's eyes snap open. She cannot speak. The vent tube silences her, but fear screams through her gaze. Dana freezes. The crystal flares brighter, monitors spike, vapor surges, filling the pod until camera lenses bead with chemicals. Outside the OR, radiation alarms screech. Vega slams the intercom. "Abort," levels off the charts. Dana's earpiece crackles. Monroe, "Pull back." But Dana sees something else. Inside the crystal, a microfracture spirals, leaking hot white energy. If they retreat now, the shard could rupture, unleashing a terminal bloom of toxin. She grips the joystick, clamps the pincers in a crosslock on the shard. "Now or never," she whispers. With a violent jerk, the robotic arms wrench the crystal free. Gloria arches, entire torso seizing. The shard pops loose. Instantly, vapor volume quadruples, hurricanes swirling within the pod. Dana yanks the sample into a sealed crucible slot as sirens drown her heartbeat. Alarms glow crimson. Pressure rising, filters clogging, plastic skin of the pod buckling inward. Gloria flatlines. The wave of silence that follows is deeper than any roar. Dana withdraws instruments, slams the pod lid, twists the triple lock catches. Inside, the storm subsides. Vapor density drops, sensors blinking from red to amber. The HEPA fans howl, dragging foul air skyward. Dana stumbles back, adrenaline hammering. Her visor is speckled with acid pits. Through them she sees Gloria's chest fall, then, miracle, rise. Heart monitor ticks, weak but present. Dr. Monroe exhales over comms, a sound halfway between laugh and sob. Specimen secured, Dana rasps, patient alive. But the triumph is fragile. Overhead, thunder cracks. The building shudders as lightning strikes a roof transformer. Power flickers. Somewhere distant, backup batteries fail, plunging half the wing into darkness. Emergency beacons flare red. In Dana's glove, the crucible warms, faint vibrations humming like a captive hornet. She knows the fight has only paused, not ended. The crystal, Specimen 0, beats like a dark heart in her hand, waiting for its next breath. And outside, rivers of rainwater climb the hospital steps, carrying city filth toward doors sealed only by sandbags and hope. Chapter 4. Thermal runaway. Horizon-wide thunderheads pressed Riverside beneath a lid of bruised steel as the convoy bearing Specimen 0 crawled out of the hospital grounds. Inside, the exhausted staff felt a tremor of relief, thin, tentative, like the first breath after choking. But 5 blocks away, in an alley behind a shuttered tire shop, that relief shattered. The flatbed's escort Humvee hit a flooded pothole, its rear wheels fish-tailed, spraying oily water across the truck's rear axles. Cold runoff splashed the sarcophagus housing the crystal, soaking its external climate sensors. For 17 slow heartbeats, nothing happened. Then the internal monitors spiked. Inside the coffin-thick walls, Specimen 0 pulsed once, twice, each beat hotter, faster. The stabilization coils clicked as software fought to keep the interior at 22 degrees Celsius. They failed. Temperature climbed past 30, then 40. Servo fans howled, drawing emergency power from the truck's alternator, but rain-soaked contacts arced, shorting circuits in a violet flash. The sarcophagus lights flickered, died. The crystal awoke. Back at Riverside Medical's incident room, Captain Linda Vega studied the GPS telemetry scrolling on a wall monitor. A single icon suddenly turned red, then vanished. Static crackled through the convoy's radio channel. Unit Delta 6 report. No answer, just a high, metallic whine that stabbed like tinfoil against molars. Vega's gut twisted. She patched the feed to Dr. Lila Monroe downstairs. Monroe's pulse hammered. If containment breaches in transit, aerosol spread will ride the storm front straight into downtown. Vega shoved her service pistol into its holster, useless but habit, and barked orders for an airborne drone recon. The hospital roof crew scrambled, point lights flicking under the gunmetal sky, launching a quadcopter into the gusting wind. Delta 6's driver, Sergeant Liam Keller, stared in horror at the console. Error glyphs strobed bloody red across every gauge. He had 30 seconds to decide. Push forward and risk detonation in a residential block, or ditch the sarcophagus where it stood. He swerved into the vacant lot beside the tire shop, tires skidding through mud. Brakes screamed. Humvees boxed around him, soldiers piling out, rifles leveled, though bullets could solve nothing here. Keller leapt from the cab, rain hammering his helmet, and sprinted for the sarcophagus control panel. Its surface glowed orange, heat rippling the air like desert asphalt. Private Rowland, the youngest in the escort, stepped closer. "Sir, it's humming." The crystal's song, born in the basement hours earlier, now swelled into open air, an ethereal moan, lonely and lethal. The sound vibrated through Kevlar, through bone. Rowland dropped to one knee, helmet rattling, blood trickled from his nostrils. Keller keyed the manual quench lever. Nothing. Circuits melted, the handle fused. He yelled for a Halligan bar. A soldier passed it. Keller swung, sparks bursting as metal kissed glowing steel. On the fifth strike, a seam split. Crimson light poured out, and with it a scalding breath of toxin that smelled of rotten citrus and scorched sugar. The squad fell back, gagging behind gas masks that offered no defense. Rain turned to steam where the cloud touched. Above, the drone's live feed showed a blossom of violet vapor expanding like a malignant flower. In Riverside Medical, every monitor lit up with alarms. Dr. Monroe's voice cracked over the PA. Shelter in place. External breach confirmed. Inside the hospital, Dana Latimer stood at Gloria Ramirez's bedside as klaxons wailed again, third time tonight, and each shriek felt closer to apocalypse. Gloria's eyes fluttered open. "It's loose," she whispered, lips tremoring. "I feel it, calling." Dana squeezed her bandaged palms into fists. "Then call it back." "I can't." Tears pooled. "It was growing in me, now it's free." Dana's mind sprinted. Gloria's blood chemistry had balanced the crystal before surgery, heat and cold cycling inside a living host. Outside a body, the shard sought its own extremes, churned unstable. Could Gloria's equilibrium still tame it? "Dr. Monroe," Dana barked into her radio, "prepare a mobile dialysis rig. We need to harvest stabilized plasma from Gloria and aerosolize it as a neutralizing mist." Monroe replied, incredulous. "You want to douse the city with her blood?" "Fractionated proteins only," Dana shot back. "Filter out cells, keep the regulators, it's our best shot." Vega, listening in, authorized the Hail Mary. "You have 30 minutes before that cloud reaches the first apartment block." Rain soaked Keller's squad as they crawled behind an overturned Humvee, chemical fog snaking low across the lot. A single touch to skin blistered it raw. Keller's radio coughed static. Then, "Doctor," Monroe's voice. "All units, hold position, neutralization en route." Keller peered over the axle. The sarcophagus was a furnace now, rivets glowing white. Through widening cracks he glimpsed the crystal, brighter than welding arc, spinning on a cushion of its own heat. Vapor spiraled skyward, mixing with storm clouds in a bruise-violet vortex. In the hospital lab, centrifuges screamed, separating Gloria's plasma. Technicians loaded golden liquid into pressurized canisters attached to agricultural crop duster drones kept for emergency pesticide dispersal. Dana double-checked nozzles, pulse thrumming in her burned hands. Gloria watched, weak but resolute. "If it fails, burn it." Dana met her gaze. "We won't fail." The first drone roared down the flooded boulevard like a metallic dragonfly. Its spray arms hissed, releasing atomized halos of amber mist. As droplets met the violet cloud, steam hissed, colors clashed. Amber wrestling purple swirling into a sickly gray that sank heavy to asphalt. Keller felt the air cool. The blistering tang dulled to bitter almond, then to nothing. His mask cleared. He tasted damp night and motor oil, a blessing. Soldiers rose, watching the cloud collapse around them, thick as fog, then dissipate in shredded ribbons caught by the wind. Inside the cracked sarcophagus, Specimen Zero dimmed, its heartbeat glow fading to coal red, then ember orange. Finally, darkness claimed the jagged facets. The crystal ceased its song. Dana's voice whispered through Keller's earpiece. "Status?" Keller exhaled a ragged laugh. "Neutralized, so far." Sunrise arrived, muted, pink streaks slipping between remaining storm clouds. Riverside smelled of wet asphalt and newly cut copper wire, but the air was clean. Workers in reflective gear hosed toxin residue into temporary containment ponds. News choppers circled, lenses hungrily recording soldiers escorting the blackened sarcophagus onto a secondary temperature-controlled rig. In the ICU, Gloria slept, IV pumping chilled saline, her body flushed of the last reactive agents. Dana sat beside her, skin prickling with residual burns, heart finally slowing. Captain Vega stepped in, helmet tucked under one arm. "The city council declared a state of recovery," she said. "They want to give you a medal." Dana shook her head. "Give it to the nurses in triage. I'm going to sleep for a week." "No time." Vega smiled sadly. Chapter 5 starts in an hour. Press conferences, CDC interviews, congressional hearings. She glanced through the window toward the distant convoy. "And we still have to decide where to bury that thing so deep the earth forgets it." Dana leaned back, eyelids heavy. "Let the earth forget. We'll remember." Outside, the cracked sarcophagus rolled north, destination classified. But in its padded cradle, the crystal's core retained a single ember, a microscopic ember that glowed once like a last blink, then winked out. For now. Chapter 5, Fallout. Morning sunlight finally seeped through the eastern haze, bleaching Riverside in wan gold. Helicopters pulled back toward bases, sirens fell silent, and a strange stillness, almost sacred, settled over the battered city. But beneath that hush, gears of bureaucracy and fear were already turning. By noon, the hospital's fourth-floor auditorium transformed into a press theater. Rows of folding chairs, cables snaking across linoleum, camera lenses glittering like flies on carrion. Captain Vega, Dr. Lila Monroe, and Dr. Henry Ochoa took the podium as Dana Latimer stood behind the curtain, arms crossed over bandaged hands. Microphones captured every tremor in Vega's voice. "The immediate threat has been neutralized. Air readings remain clear within a 7-mile radius. We owe our gratitude to the medical staff whose swift action contained the incident." Reporters pounced. Was it terrorism? Bioweapon spill? Government experiment gone wrong? Monroe replied in measured tones, "Unknown chemometabolic cascade, unprecedented under investigation." But her eyes betrayed fatigue and doubt the cameras couldn't quite reach. Families of stricken hospital workers packed the rear rows, grief tightening their faces. Lawsuits brewed in whispered clusters. A father of 2 ICU nurses shouted, "Why was she even treated here if she was dangerous?" Security ushered him out, but his question hung in the air like fresh toxin. Dana watched, anger simmering. Gloria was a patient, not a weapon. Yet the narrative outside these walls was mutating as fast as the vapor had. Clickbait headlines branding Gloria toxic lady. Talk radio hosts speculating about cartel fentanyl or alien parasites. 2 states away, a classified convoy crossed desolate stretches of desert, escorting the inert crystal toward an abandoned missile silo repurposed for extreme hazard storage. Inside the new sarcophagus, temperature held at a precise 22°. Humidity 20%, vibration below 0.1 G. Instruments reported stability, but the soldier riding shotgun still swore he heard faint music when the engine idled. He kept that to himself. Back in Riverside, Dana returned to ICU to find 2 men in charcoal suits beside Gloria's bed. One with a Homeland Security badge, the other flashing letters no one liked to see, CIA. They spoke politely, but their questions were surgical. Did Mrs. Ramirez receive any unlicensed treatments? Gene therapy, black market radionuclides? Could someone have implanted the crystal to weaponize her? Did she mention visitors, foreign or domestic, in the weeks before admission? Dana bristled. Gloria, drifting in and out of morphine dreams, caught fragments. Her pulse raced, monitors chirped. Dana stepped between the agents and the bed. Interrogate her when she's conscious, not doped and stitched. Cold stares met hers, but they retreated. For now. Downstairs, Ochoa and Monroe isolated a protein complex from Gloria's plasma. Call it GR7. In vitro tests showed GR7 bound to dimethyl sulfate chains, inhibiting their volatility. It was, in crude terms, an antidote only her body could make. Synthesize it, and future outbreaks might be quelled without drones and luck. But patents glimmered in the distance, and pharmaceutical giants had lobbyists on speed dial. A biotech firm already left voicemail offering a strategic partnership. Monroe deleted it, aware the voicemail had likely been copied to a dozen cloud servers before she hit trash. That evening, Riverside's mayor lifted the shelter-in-place order. Restaurants reopened, traffic lights flickered alive, and yet every gust of wind made passers-by sniff the air, half expecting almonds and gasoline. Children pointed at hospital windows and whispered ghost stories. Inside those windows, Dana sat with Gloria's husband, Arthur, flown in after frantic red-eye connections. Tears and relief collided in his eyes as he gripped his wife's hand, lips trembling with unsaid apologies for not being there sooner. Gloria managed to smile. Her voice barely rose above the oxygen hiss. "They say I'm safe now." Arthur kissed her knuckles. "You always were." Near midnight, Dana made her rounds. In a deserted stairwell, she found Captain Vega staring through a tiny mesh grate that once connected to the ER ventilation trunk. "We purged every duct," Vega muttered, "but I swear something's still moving in there." Echoes. Dana listened. Only distant HVAC murmurs and a water drip. Yet an instinct, call it battle-rattled intuition, told her Vega wasn't chasing phantoms. Dana promised to run one more particulate sweep before dawn. Hundreds of miles east, the convoy approached the silo. Sensors still read flat lines, temperature perfect, vibration nil. The lead driver keyed the final check-in. Echo 1 to command, 20 clicks out, all systems green. Static answered, no voice, no carrier tone, only a faint chiming that rose and fell like breathing glass. The driver frowned, tapped the mic. From the cargo bay, a single thud echoed. Soft, deliberate, as if something inside the sarcophagus had shifted position to listen. He swallowed, rolled up the window against desert wind, and pressed harder on the accelerator, chasing the fragile promise of secure walls buried beneath miles of rock. Behind him, the flat desert night shimmered under starlight that glinted off unseen facets. Chapter 6. Echoes in the silo. The desert night wrapped the decommissioned missile complex in brittle silence, its rust-flecked blast doors half submerged beneath dunes. Searchlights swept across cracked concrete, while the convoy's engines droned to a halt in crescent formation. Sergeant Keller stepped down first. His boots sank into powdery sand that smelled of old soot and iron. Overhead, the stars burned white and pitiless, reflecting off the matte black sarcophagus like distant sparks on obsidian. Technicians in pale gray suits rolled portable climate monitors toward the freight lift. Readouts blinked green, temperature stable, humidity perfect. Yet Keller felt a faint tremor radiate through the dolly's rubber wheels, as if the crystal inside were tapping out a code too subtle for instruments. He swallowed, motioned the team forward, and the sarcophagus descended into the earth on a groaning hydraulic platform that exhaled air stale as tomb dust. 30 meters below ground, the silo's main chamber yawned wide, a cylinder of chilled concrete scarred by decades of neglect. Floodlights cast long skeletal shadows of catwalks and rebar. Colonel Grace Petrov, charged with site security, strode across the grated deck, her breath curling in pale ribbons. "Lock it in Sector Delta," she ordered. "Triple redundancies, thermal, seismic, magnetic." Keller nodded, but the hum in his teeth grew stronger. The coffin-sized container slid into a cradle, ringed by chilled brine pipes. Robotic arms latched onto anchor points, bolts tightened with pneumatic hisses, sensors recalibrated, 22 degrees C, vibration 0.00 G, all nominal. A collective exhale rippled through the chamber. Then the lights flickered. A low resonance like a wine glass stroked by a wet finger vibrated the steel handrails. Monitors spiked, 24 degrees, 25. Tiny snow-like crystals drifted from overhead dust, dancing in unseen currents. A tech whispered, "It's singing again," just before every floodlight exploded in blinding white shards. Back in Riverside, Dana jolted awake in the break room, heart sprinting. For a heartbeat, she smelled almonds and ozone, though the ICU air was clean. Across town, Dr. Monroe paged her. Silo sensors show thermal uptick. Dana rubbed sleep from her eyes, dread settling like lead. She hurried to Gloria's bedside, only to find the monitors flashing crimson. Gloria's core temp climbed, mirroring the crystal's flare hundreds of miles away. Gloria's lids fluttered. "It's back," she rasped, "calling me." Her skin shimmered with the faintest opal vapor, thin as breath on glass. Dana hit the intercom. "Ochoa, GR7 trough dose now." Syringe plunged. The antitoxin surged into Gloria's vein. The shimmer receded, but her eyes brimmed with terror. "If it wakes fully," she whispered, "it won't need me anymore." Deep underground, backup lights throbbed red as Petrov's team scrambled. The sarcophagus bucked once, gauges redlining, 30 degau, 35 degau. Brine pumps screamed. Liquid nitrogen reserves dumped into coils, ice fog rolling across the deck. For 3 long seconds, the temp halted at 40 degrees, then inched down. 39, 38. Stabilizing. The hum fell to a muted throb. Darkness pressed in. Petrov ordered full lockdown. Blast doors sealed, data lines cut to prevent remote tampering. But Keller noticed his helmet radio crackle with the same glass-breathing chime he'd heard on the highway, though every transmitter was dead. He reached out, laid a gloved palm on the sarcophagus, and felt a pulse not of heat, but thought, cold and deliberate. At that exact moment, Gloria Ramirez opened her eyes back in Riverside. Flat green on the cardiac monitor jumped to steady rhythm. She spoke a single word, voice layered with a tone that wasn't hers, metallic, distant, echoing through Dana's bones. "Soon." The word rippled through Dana's mind like a dropped stone in deep water. She stepped back, breathing hard. Somewhere in those dark silo corridors, Sergeant Keller's heart skipped. He had heard the same whisper inside his skull. 15 minutes later, an encrypted line reopened between the silo and Riverside Command. Colonel Petrov's voice was steady but thin. "Object contained. Secondary cooling holding. Recommend quarantining all remote biologic vectors. Your patient included. Whatever link exists hasn't been severed." Dana, eyes on Gloria, replied, "Vectors aren't wires you can cut. They're living currents." She clenched her bandaged fists. "We need a signal interrupter, an electromagnetic cage around both hosts until we decode the frequency." Ochoa nodded, already sketching Faraday schematics. Monroe ordered procurement. Vega approved, her signature dry under the weight of fresh dread. In the silo, Keller stood sentinel beside the silent box, teeth still buzzing from that unspoken word. He imagined the desert above, wide, empty, indifferent. And he wondered if the earth was deep enough to bury a voice that spoke without sound, breathed without lungs, and dreamed inside stone. Miles away, storm clouds gathered anew, magnetized by secrets no weather map could trace. Chapter 7. Frequency. Black cables snaked across every corridor of Riverside Medical, vanishing beneath a scaffold of copper mesh erected around Gloria's ICU bay. Welders in arc masks sealed seams, sparks cascading like harsh orange snow onto linoleum. Outside the makeshift cage, Dr. Ochoa and Dana Latimer calibrated a signal generator the size of a small fridge, its oscilloscope blooming with green tracer lines. At 02:14 a.m., they powered it on. A low hum filled the ward, sub-bass so deep it trembled IV poles and echoed behind rib cages. Inside the cage, Gloria Ramirez stirred. Her pulse quickened, but the monitors remained stable. No vapor bled from her pores. Dana exhaled, hopeful. Miles away, deep beneath desert rock, Sergeant Keller felt that hum through concrete and marrow. In the silo's control booth, technicians registered a tiny drop in the crystal's core temperature, 1/10 of a degree. Colonel Petrov radioed Riverside. "Interference confirmed. Keep the frequency locked." Dana nodded, twisting the dial until the waveform settled into a narrow, steady band. For 3 full minutes, everything held. Gloria drifted into shallow sleep, and Keller's teeth stopped buzzing. Then every monitor flatlined into a perfect, unnerving silence. Lights popped. Screens went black. The copper cage around Gloria spat blue corona arcs, welding sparks turning white hot. Dana lunged for the generator, palms sizzling against metal, and ripped the power cord free. Alarms rebooted in wails. Gloria bolted upright, eyes all pupil gasping as if dragged from drowning. Across the continent, the sarcophagus erupted in a single seismic bang, enough to jolt seismic sensors but not rupture the shell. Keller's headset crackled with Colonel Petrov's curse. Temperature spiked anew, vibration climbed. Whatever link they'd jammed had bounced back twice as strong. Back in Riverside, Dr. Monroe rushed into the dimmed ward, shoes splashing through puddles of extinguisher foam. "You turned the cage into an antenna," she shouted above the claxons. Ochoa stared at the smoking mesh, realization dawning. Copper lattice amplified, not muted, the resonance. Gloria clutched Dana's wrist. "It's learning." Her voice vibrated with a metallic undertone. "It carried my cells, my memories. Now it uses them." Dana's gaze hardened. "Then we changed the memory." They wheeled a portable dialysis rig to the cage's threshold, drawing fresh plasma to synthesize more GR7 antitoxin, this time infused with mild electromagnetic nanoparticles tuned to scramble the shard's evolving signal. Technicians worked feverishly, syringes threading like silk wires into centrifuge ports. Each spin cycle produced glowing amber serum flecked with silver motes. 2 hours later, a courier helicopter thundered above the roof, rotors beating dawn's crimson haze. A steel canister, chilled and vacuum-sealed, dropped into Dana's hands. She keyed the encrypted sat phone. Package inbound. Prep delivery nozzle at silo vent shaft. In the desert, Keller guided a drone the size of a manhole cover through the silo's depressurized chimney, its tanks sloshing with the nanoparticle serum. He watched the video feed, concrete walls sliding past, dim red emergency lights painting vertical scars. The drone reached the main chamber, hovering above the dark sarcophagus. Colonel Petrov gave the order. Keller hit release. Twin jets sprayed silvery mist, particles glinting in strobe flashes as they settled over the casing and seeped into every rivet seam. Sensors danced erratic, temperature up, then sharply down, oscillations tightening into a flat line at exactly 22 degrees. In Riverside, Gloria's vitals mirrored the change, heart steady, oxygen saturation climbing. She sighed, lashes fluttering shut. For the first time, no violet vapor followed her breath. Ochoa watched his console. "Resonance nullified," he whispered, almost afraid to believe it. Dana leaned her forehead against the cage bars, relief and exhaustion mixing with the smell of melted insulation. Yet far below the desert, a final blip pulsed on seismic graphs. One soft thud, like a distant heartbeat deciding whether to continue. Sensors held flat. The chamber lights brightened, normal hum returning. Keller removed his headset and let out a shaky laugh that caught in his throat. Back at the hospital, dawn light spilled through cracked blinds, illuminating soot streaks and solder scars, but also the quiet form of Gloria Ramirez, finally sleeping without nightmares. Dana turned off the last red alarm, silence blooming in its wake. She knew one chapter remained, a full debrief, public reckoning, and decisions about what to do with a crystal that could dream through stone and steel. But for this sliver of morning, the toxic song had ended. Outside, rain-washed streets glistened under a tentative sun. And for the first time in days, Riverside smelled only of wet asphalt and the faint promise of normal life. Chapter 8. Quiet Containment. Sunset bleeds across the Mojave, like a slow-closing wound when the final convoy halts at the mouth of a newly bored shaft. 900 meters of volcanic basalt drilled for one purpose: to entomb the thing that once breathed through Gloria Ramirez. Concrete trucks idle in half circles, their mixers churning aggregate laced with lead shot, boron glass, and powdered magnetite. Each drum holds a different silence. Under floodlights, Colonel Petrov supervises as the sarcophagus is winched over the shaft. Sensors show perfect equilibrium, 22 degree, 0 vibration, but nobody trusts the numbers. Sergeant Keller murmurs a soft farewell he cannot explain, then keys the release. Steel cables sigh. The crate descends, shrinking step by step into darkness until its beacon light is a single star. Then nothing at all. Liquid concrete follows, roaring like grey lava, sealing centuries of caution in minutes. Engineers weld a titanium cap, stamp it with a date, a radiation trefoil, and a single word: quarantined. Thousands of miles away, Riverside Medical exhales. Fire-damaged ceiling tiles come down, hazmat signs peel from doors, the copper Faraday cage is cut into scrap. In Gloria's room, flowers replace monitors. She sits by the window, sun on her cheeks, IVs gone. Dana stands beside her, a fresh sling on one arm where burns are still healing. Gloria asks the question that has haunted every waking moment. Will it ever wake again? Dana watches clouds drift like quiet ghosts. Maybe, but it's buried deeper than missiles, locked under enough stone to outlast kingdoms. She pauses, smile faint. And if it ever calls, we'll be ready. With science, with caution, and with your blood secret. Gloria chuckles, a fragile sound but human. Funny, I never wanted to be special. Dana squeezes her shoulder. Sometimes the world chooses its miracles. In Washington, hearings rage. Politicians brandish photos of blistered nurses and cratered alleyways, clamor for tighter controls on home chemo kits, for bigger budgets, for blame. Dr. Monroe testifies in measured tones, defending the staff who saved a city. Captain Vega answers pointed questions with steely calm. Ochoa presents vials of GR7 antitoxin, now synthesized in controlled labs. Yet off-camera, agencies barter patents and biotech firms queue for licenses. Humanity's appetite for power is another kind of crystal, always humming. Night settles once more over Riverside. Streetlights hum, neon flickers above late-shift diners, and the smell of almonds has finally washed from the gutters. Dana walks the quiet ER hallway, patched drywall, fresh paint, antiseptic clean. A new batch of residents huddle over textbooks, oblivious to ghosts that still linger in vents and memories. At the exit, Dana pauses. In the hush, she almost thinks she hears that glass breath song, distant as a dream, but it's only wind nudging the revolving door. She steps outside, inhales the cool air and lets it go. Somewhere beneath oceans of stone, a shard of black crystal rests in perfect darkness. Around it, concrete cures to diamond hardness, pressure mounts, temperatures hold. No heartbeat, no hum, only the slow ache of centuries ticking like drops of unseen water. For now, the world is quiet. If stories of real-world terror and unthinkable survival grip you as much as they haunt us, join our growing circle of midnight listeners. Subscribe to crazy, real horror stories and never face the dark alone. Turn on notifications, share the fear with friends, and remember, sometimes the scariest tales are the true ones lurking just beyond the glow of your screen. Stay curious, stay cautious, and we'll meet again in the next shadow.